number, you can find it. Okay, thank you. Something came. So
now that we're recording, actually, Madam President, if you could go ahead and declare a quorum and we can get started.
Aisha, are you talking?
Can you hear me?
What did you say?
Can you hear me?
I heard you.
Yes.
I just acknowledging we now have the meeting recorded, so we can begin.
Okay, thank you. So we have the quorum, we start the meeting. President remark, I don't have any remark. The only thing that I have to say that we all work for this county, citizen of this county, to have a smooth and nice vote. Change of the agenda. Anybody has?
Yes, Madam President.
Yes, sir.
A few items about the agenda. First off, I do not believe it was emailed to us this month, and I hope that it will be in the future. I did get it off of the website. I don't know if it needs to be on the agenda, but I believe we have an executive session scheduled after the meeting.
Yes.
So, Kevin, does that have to be on our agenda when we have an executive session?
It does not need to be on the agenda, but just for purposes of members of the public to know what the executive sessions, they're really going to be two. The first will be to discuss security regarding drop boxes, and the second will be to discuss a personnel matter.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The second thing is that we, under new business, we're talking about the canvas, and we're talking about drop boxes, and we're talking about election judges. And I was wondering if we could also add early voting to our list of things to talk about, because there's a couple of issues relating to that I think would be of interest.
Okay, and we will add it under new business, right?
Okay, and then one more item for new business, which I'd like to add at the end, which would be board correspondence. A couple of things we'd like to bring up about that.
Board what?
Correspondence.
Oh, correspondence. Okay. All right then. Anybody else has change of agenda? No. Old business, new business, future business? No. Thank you. Public comment. Lisa, do you have anybody sign in to talk?
Yes, Madam President. We had someone, Alexis Jones, who requested to address the board. I don't know if she's on. Alexis Jones.
Hello. Okay. Anybody else?
Oh, there's somebody with his hand up.
Paul Geller's raising his hand.
Did you sign in, sir?
Oh, you're muted.
I did.
Then therefore they have to sign in ahead of time to talk.
Madam President?
Yes, sir.
I didn't know that Mr. Geller would be here today, but would it be possible for us to let him speak?
After that situation before, I'm hesitated to let people speak out, but they haven't. Do you know Mr. Geller? I
do know Mr. Geller, but I'm not sure that I should need to know the people who want to speak in order for them to speak, but I do know Mr. Geller. I mean, he could sign up to speak right now on the website, but that would kind of waste our time because then we would have to come back to it. So David, I was thinking,
David, I do not prevent people to speak. You saw that I let them speak, and you saw what happened. We're just following the rule and regulation which was in effect since God knows 2000.
Well, Madam President,
okay, sir, go ahead and talk. Okay, stop talking. Mr. Geller, go ahead and say what you want to say, sir.
Oh, thank you to the County Board of Elections. I appreciate it. It's going to be very curt. So it's going to be positive just with a question. I greatly appreciate everything that you're doing. I'm running for the District 7 seat on the County Council. And my campaign applied for the public election fund. We met the requirements of the 125 donors from Montgomery County, as well as $10,000 raised. An issue came up with receipts not being input. My treasurer was unaware of the situation, and we contacted the Board of Elections several times to try to get a response. We didn't hear any. We reached out to Jared DeMoranis at the state level and didn't hear back from him. 12 business days afterwards, and I believe the state law was 10 business days afterwards. 12 business days afterwards, we heard from him, and he said that we were not qualified. He said there was no recourse for action. The reason why I'm bringing this up is I had two state senators contact Mr. DeMoranis, and today we heard back from Mary C. Wagner. Senator Kramer heard back from her, and he said that this was an issue. She said that this was an issue that was only the Montgomery County Board of Elections could cure. So I most respectfully ask that we immediately, as soon as we learned of the issue last Wednesday, my staff cured it. We put in all the receipts, and if you would kindly, allow us the opportunity to review that issue, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Alison, do you have anything?
Yeah, Mr. Geller, I'm Allison McLaughlin. I'm the acting election director, and I'm sorry that you experienced this situation. The process that you're referring to, you spoke to the right people. And if Jared or Mary indicate that there's some piece of this that because our office does not administer this process generally, but if there's some piece of this that we need to take a look at, I'm more than happy to do that personally. Not a problem at all. You could certainly call our office, or I have, I obviously have your contact information here as well, since you're a filed candidate. So I'll reach out to you after this meeting and we'll figure it out.
Okay. And just so it's clear, Mr. Geller, Montgomery County is the only county that has this fund, I believe, but it is purely run by the State Board of Elections. So Mr. DeMoranis is the individual that has final decision-making authority, but we will get clarification and provide that information to the board members about exactly what the issue is and whether there is any recourse that the board has. But my recollection of the legislation, it's been quite some time since I have looked at it, the authority to administer that program was delegated specifically to the state board staff, and Montgomery County board staff does not play a role in it.
I had always heard that our board had nothing to do with it. I'm kind of surprised to hear the state board staff saying that it's up to us. I do think that Howard County may have added themselves to the public financing bandwagon as well, but this is an aside.
I was going to refer you to Jared DeMoranis until you told me that they referred you back to me. So we'll figure this out so you're not getting bounced back and forth.
Alex, yes.
Madam President, I just wanted to ask Mr. Geller, is it a question that you believe, your campaign believes that you satisfied the substantive requirements, but it was a failure to provide all the requisite documentation?
That is correct. It was an inadvertent mistake on my treasurer's part. Falls on me. We cured it immediately. Ordinarily, if we didn't apply by the June 4th deadline, we'd have a 10-day curing period. Because we applied by June 4th, that was the cutoff. So we had tried to get clarification from numerous parties, and we couldn't hear back from anyone. I understand everyone's really busy. So, I just want it to be stated, we tried our best to find out what we needed to do. Thank you.
All right, then. Alison, you would help this gentleman, right? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Geller. Anybody else? No. Okay. Disclosure of campaign contribution. Anybody contribute any money? Yes.
Yes, no, given that this is campaign season, I have a number of donations to report. I gave $200 to Reardon Sullivan, who is running for county executive. I gave $100 to Kathy Googleus, who is running for a district office. I gave $200 to Dan Kuda, who is running for a delegate slot. And I gave $1,000 to Kelly Schultz, who is, of course, running for governor. And I gave several contributions to people outside of Montgomery County. Do I need to report those?
No, not unless they appear on the ballot, Ami.
No, they do not.
Okay, thank you, Ami. Yes, Diane.
I gave $100 to Jim Shalek, who's running for Attorney General.
Okay. Elise, yes, ma'am. No, not you. Sorry, okay. I didn't contribute either. Alan?
No contribution.
No contribution, thank you. Alex?
No contributions today.
David?
Oh,
Okay, thank you. Board of Election status report, Alison.
Yes, my director's report was sent out on late Thursday night, along with the budget spreadsheet, and draft minutes were provided earlier, were provided on June 16th. A couple of action items to follow up on from our previous meeting. There was a question that had been raised about the authority of our office to make changes regarding the preferences of a candidate's, how a candidate appeared on the ballot after, during the time that we have to proof the accuracy of the ballot. And we did follow up on that. I believe the information on that was provided to the board members. But the bottom line of it was that the state administrator indicated that while effectively our authority to make corrections extends only to making corrections that reflect what the candidate provided on their paperwork when they met the deadline timely to file. So that, I think, clarified that, hopefully to the satisfaction of the board members. The Canvas schedule sign up was circulated. I believe that there's still sort of an outstanding request from the board members for confirmation, a mechanism for better confirmation of what shifts you have signed up for using the electronic interface. And so we'll certainly take care of that. But we did provide a tentative copy of the Canvas schedule. As you all know, and I will just flag this for our meeting because this was not something that we believe we had an opportunity to discuss. It arose since our last meeting, is that there was the governor did veto Senate Bill 163, which would have allowed the canvas to begin and ballots to be opened prior to Election Day. So we are back to the way that we did this in 2018 and previously, which is that we will not be opening ballots, envelopes containing ballots until the Thursday after Election Day is when we will begin our canvas process. We also had an intervening challenge that arose, and this may or may not be the issue that Mr. Naiman has his hand up in the air to discuss, and so we can certainly do that now if you wish. But we had an issue arise with scheduling with Montgomery County Public Schools. Of course, Montgomery County Public Schools is a wonderful partner to us in so many ways. And certainly on Election Day, they are legally required to provide us with the space, the custodial support, everything that we need for Election Day. There was a question regarding their legal mandate to provide space for us beyond that point. And there are some conflicts between programming that they want to have in the facility that we had reserved. We have a reservation at Watkins Mill High School for our canvas. What we did as this issue arose, we still have a reservation at Watkins Mill High School, but we also have known conflicts where it has been communicated to us that the school system is in a position to need to cancel at least part of our reservation. And so what we did was we went and we arranged for alternate space, which is at Montgomery College, the Bioscience Education Center at Montgomery College. They have a meeting space that our voter services staff went out and took a look at. And so we have a reservation there with Montgomery College at this time for us to conduct the canvas there instead of Watkins Mill High School. Madam President, do you want to, I'm sure there will be discussion about this. Do you want to discuss that now, or do you want me to do the full report and then come back and discuss items?
No, you can do it now. Just be faster.
Okay, great. Did I guess correctly that that was what you wanted to discuss, David, or?
Well, when I put my hand up, I was going to discuss something else, but now I have two items to discuss relating to the canvas. When I put my hand up, I wanted to point out that we did ask a question. We emailed you last night about the canvas schedule. We discovered that the canvas schedule makes it, if we're signing up for 4-hour shifts with no time in between, it makes it impossible for someone to participate in person for part of the day and virtually for part of the day. And we wanted to know if that was intentional or if there would be some way to have time in between the morning shift and the afternoon shift, which would then allow whoever is working the morning shift to participate in the afternoon and whoever's working the afternoon shift to participate in the morning.
And I can certainly respond to that from my perspective. Kevin, do you want to speak to that since you were directly involved in this conversation? You want me to take the lead on it?
Well, I mean, I think David raised a fair point. I think the reality is that if you're going to sign up for the day, you're going to be there for the entire day. I think it's going to be.
I think that's not. I think that's an old reality, Kevin. You're talking about a very different situation than 2018 and before. For one thing, there is no break for lunch, and for another thing, we're allowing virtual participation. And I would point out that not every board member lives right next door to the Canvas location, although we don't know what the Canvas location is going to be yet.
Okay.
I mean, I think for my part.
Well, hold on. First off, if we have more than 4 people, it's not an issue. So we have 4 people. We have people that are logged on virtually. That shouldn't be an issue if we have a quorum of 4. You know, it is
an issue for those who want to participate. It's not the question here is not just does the board have a quorum. The question here is how can people participate if they would like to. On our side, we have exactly 3 members who are eligible. And that means that if we split up between the morning and the afternoon, 2 of us are in a position at the moment, if we're only allowed to participate from those time periods, that basically, now admittedly, the canvas can go on without us if you have your quorum otherwise. And yeah, if I'm signed up until 2 o'clock and I go home, I can sign in from home at 2:30, whether I'm signed up for a shift from 2 to 6 or not. But you are limiting the options if there's no break in the middle of the day, and you're making it the cost of appearing for the whole day is skipping lunch, because in the past 2018 and before we had a lunch break. Not every, you know, I have signed up in some instances for both the morning and the afternoon, and I will skip lunch, but I think that's a lot to ask of people. For a very long day to be skipping lunch. We are not asking our Canvas teams to skip lunch. We're giving them the opportunity to have a lunch break. The only people we're asking to skip lunch are board members.
Well, that's not true. I'm going to skip lunch and I'll be there every day.
Okay. Well,
but I don't have to. I don't know. Lunch period, but built into the schedule. I know it's not stated here, but I mean, it seems to me that implausible that we wouldn't take a break, even if there's no break that's expressly listed in the schedule.
Alex, I think you've missed some of the past conversations, but the implausible is exactly what we're talking about.
Well, I think the challenge here, from my perspective, is that the board needs minimally to have a quorum, and the board may participate in person or virtually. Kevin had tried to work with Lisa, a couple other staff members here who were involved in trying to negotiate the schedule here to find a way to make this easier, to try to find a way for us to leverage the ability of board members to participate remotely and not only in person. And the outcome of that was this proposal that we divide up the day into shifts to provide some greater flexibility to the board members to sign up for only half a day or the other half of a day. And what that's running into in a sort of collision course here is the question of how to handle lunch. I mean,
it's not just about lunch.
Okay.
And it's, it's about limiting, because you're saying you're trying to provide the flexibility for those who want to participate virtually, but you are limiting the flexibility of those who want to participate in person. Because if you're participating virtually, you can eat all day long. But if you are participating in person, eating and drinking is not allowed in the Canvas room, and you need us to be present. So, but it's not about lunch. It's about, if someone wants to be there for the whole day, should they have to skip lunch? And if they want to be there for half the day and then participate virtually in the afternoon, there is no opportunity for them to go from place A to place B.
Actually, lunch business, I am in support because I eat lunch. I cannot skip lunch. I don't eat a big breakfast that I can last the whole day. So that one is, you should have lunch break for the board and for the staff and for the Canvas. You cannot just say eat a big breakfast, you don't have lunch. That's not right.
Maybe Kevin can speak to the sort of quorum question as far as how we handle lunch. I mean, there was a time when we had the teams and the board and everyone break for lunch. And then that becomes an extended period because the teams don't all take exactly the same amount of time, and they would finish back. And, at a certain point, we got to the point where the teams kept going. I leave it to Kevin to speak to what we need as far as a quorum of the board during the lunch period.
Let me also add that I am not advocating that we do it exactly as we have in the past. And I understand that we have less staff than we did then, and that we have more work to do. And we're going to have more mail-in ballots than we've ever attempted to do, other than in 2020 when we were allowed to start counting ballots early. I wasn't the one who vetoed the bill. But regardless of that, I agree with Naheed that I don't think it's a reasonable request of board members to tell them that they eat a big breakfast and make it all the way through. We're the only ones, we're supposedly in charge, but we are the only ones who are being asked to do this, because every Canvas team is going to get a chance to rotate out. But the way that the board sign up is set up at the moment, we do not have an opportunity to rotate out. And there might be ways to make it so that we do, so that we keep our quorum. But at the moment, that is not how it's set up. And in the meantime, our choices literally are take a shift for half the day, miss half the day, or work all the way through.
Do you have any proposed suggestions, David?
Yes, I would suggest that we have a 45-minute lunch break for the board every day, that we try to do it at a standardized time. I would suggest from 1:15 until 2, something like that. And that would be an opportunity for people to, if they need to, they can either eat lunch or drive home. And then they can participate throughout. Now, admittedly, not every minute of Canvas is scintillating and requires every board member, but I don't think board members should have to miss, if there are decisions to be made, for example, voter intent decisions, I don't think those should be made at a time when board members can't participate.
I mean, this is reasonable. I mean, 45 minutes lunch can be incorporated that one in the schedule.
Would 30 minutes be enough?
Not for where Elise lives. If it's going to be in Germantown.
Okay.
For me, 15 would be enough. I eat fast, but
it's travel time. I mean, there's just no way I can get home.
Excuse me. Okay. 30 minutes is okay, I guess. That's reasonable. Yes,
30 minutes is not reasonable for Elise. So that's why I recommended 45.
Let me ask.
I defer to Kevin.
Yes, Alice,
Sorry,
your
go ahead.
hand is, can you have your hand up that I can see who's talking? Yes, Alice.
Yeah, 30 minutes won't give me enough time from Kensington to go up there and then do, if I were to do it virtually here, I could make it in time in 30 minutes probably to the Bioscience Center. I don't even know where that is exactly. I can find it on the calendar, on the map. But the question is, I mean, how much, where is the parking close there? But 30 minutes, we cutting it short.
But if you're there,
45 minutes is more reasonable.
But, Madam President?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I mean, I know this is almost like ancient history now, but there was a time when I think we had something prepared for board members in a separate room. Is there an option to do that again so that if we wanted to stay together and eat, if people were amenable to that, then you wouldn't lose so much time?
Who's going to answer? Kevin?
Well, I mean, the problem is that we have so many Canvas teams that it becomes very difficult to figure out without having them clear their tables at the same time. We don't want them to leave anything on a table that hasn't been finished. So let me give this some additional thought, but I understand what the board's saying. The board wants a 45-minute break for lunch, and we'll figure out some way to make that happen. I mean, it may be, quite frankly, as simple as having someone who is not on the schedule log on for 45 minutes and take 45 minutes out of their day.
Is sure. any room which we can use for lunch, not to use the Canvas room?
Well, I don't even know where. I mean, I don't know. I've not been to the location at Montgomery College.
I don't think this is a space issue. I think this is a question of, in the absence of a quorum, what activities we can have the canvassers continue to do, or what we do in order to establish a quorum during a lunch period. Maybe it's 3 shifts. What we do in order to establish a quorum, or what we are legally permitted to do in the absence of a quorum.
I'm very open to the idea of different ways of establishing the quorum, and I personally don't feel the need to have other people order lunch for me or any of that kind of thing. But if I'm required for the quorum and not able to, to have a break in between, again, that, I don't think that we should have to make that choice. I do have a question that relates to the location of the canvas that was going to be my second point, but it's kind of related. Is there any option for a canvas location that is more centrally located in the county so that we don't need as much time to travel from one to the other? Or are these alternatives, and is there a need for proximity to the board office, I guess is my question, because the board office is I think driving the location of the canvas at the moment.
Right, because if you select the place, maybe it's close to me, not to you, or But
there are places in the middle of all of us, which the place that we're talking about, either Watkins Mill or Montgomery College, Germantown, is more than 30 minutes from Elise, even if there's 0 traffic. And we know this is Montgomery County, and 0 traffic is virtually never. So if we were somewhere in the greater kind of Kensington, Rockville area, I think that we would be within 20 minutes of all of us. But what I don't know is, if that's available. Even Montgomery College, Rockville would be more convenient than Montgomery College, Germantown. But I don't know whether from the staff's perspective, are they running things back and forth to the board office? Because I realize that's a burden as well. I'm just trying to figure out kind of what would work for everyone.
We are running things back and forth to the board's office, particularly at the beginning of the day and the end of the day when we're running the ballots themselves back and forth. And then anything, including ballots, that we run back and forth between the board's office and the canvas location during the day. There is certainly value to the staff in having the location be close to our office, both in terms of the time that we're paying staff to do this work, and in terms of just having ballots on the road in between our office and the location. We have had, I'm certainly open if there are other, recognizing that I will have staff come to me after this meeting and say, no, we need stability here, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm certainly open to other locations. If there is a location that any board member thinks would be a better location that would, that we have a reasonable expectation is going to have 3 weeks of availability for us in order to perform the work. But we did have a significant amount of staff time that went into identifying the Montgomery College location as the best of what we could find. Is that discussion completely closed? No, but are we getting awfully close to go time here? Yes.
When you discussed Montgomery College, did you also discuss Rockville as a possibility? And was there a reason, I mean, was Germantown chosen because of its proximity to the office, or is there not availability in Rockville?
Rockville campus.
Rockville campus.
Boris, are you on the call, or Chris, to answer that question?
I'm on the call. We got a positive reply from a Germantown campus, and we opted for that one without further inquiring about Rockville campus because of proximity. That is crucial for us to move ballots back and forth.
Chris, did you have anything to add as far as your communication with Montgomery College on their Rockville location? I know you've had some communications there as well.
Allison, we hadn't communicated directly with the college in Rockville, Montgomery College in Rockville. We had different agencies looking for us for a location. There was a location offered in Rockville as a consideration, but I believe that that was really unadvisable. It was the cafeteria at the council building. The room is small and it was up on the second level. We will have to be taking significant loads of ballots. The weight is quite significant up the elevator.
I wouldn't do that.
The advice of the elevator was not really favorable. So we opted not to go to the COB.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. If I could just, I'll just finish because I know others have things they want to say. If we were to have the 45-minute break, and if we were to be able to figure out how to keep the quorum going, I think, we're not trying to make everything come to a halt. I think we're just trying to let all board members have an opportunity to participate when they're available to do so. And I'm sure we can work something out, even if it is at either Watkins Mill or at Germantown. I wouldn't want you guys to spend a lot of time looking for places. I will say that I think that the interpretation of the state law relating to the Montgomery County Public Schools that Allison expressed is far too limited compared to what the words say. Section 10-101B3 of the Maryland Election Law article says, quote, in Montgomery County, the County Board of Education shall make available the space and custodial service as needed for the proper conduct of elections upon application by the local board. It does not say for election day. It says for the proper conduct of elections. And in the modern era, the proper conduct of elections includes all different kinds of voting, not just election day voting, and certainly includes our canvass. There may be as much interest in our canvass as there's ever been this year. And my personal belief is that Montgomery County is on the hook for this based on that statute. Now, my understanding is that they are working with our staff and the Montgomery College staff to try to help us find a solution, preferably not one where we're getting charged lots of money, which I understand is a possibility from Montgomery College, because I don't think we should be charged at all. In this instance, the school system allowed us to make a reservation and then essentially reneged on that reservation. They may have done it for good reasons, you know, because obviously the school system has to worry about its activities as well. But our activity, according to the state law, is a pretty important activity. And so I personally believe that, you know, all the agencies should work together to figure this out. But I find it hard to believe that there isn't a school gymnasium available in the entire county or even in the neighborhood of our board, you know, of our board office that would not be available for the first week of August. That just strikes me as being very odd. And we haven't really gotten the explanation yet as to why the gymnasiums at these schools are not available. I'm not saying it has to be a school gymnasium. It could be the Montgomery College Auditorium, as long as we're not being charged. That to me, you know, I don't think we should have to pay for that if the school system is supposed to be giving it to us for free according to the state law.
I don't know, Alan hand was up or Diane, which one of them? I don't know. You just
Alan was first.
Alan, okay, Alan, go ahead.
Suggest Richard Montgomery, Wheaton High School, those are large, more centrally located.
Diane?
Yeah, I think to David's point, weren't we informed that these auditoriums are not air conditioned during the summer, or was that just gymnasiums? But my hand was raised early just to support, if it doesn't take too much effort, seeing about the Rockville campus. I just wanted to support that effort.
You make a very good point about the air conditioning. We don't want to be somewhere that's not air conditioned.
Yeah.
Well, I can certainly look into that. And if there is a problem that we can't solve otherwise to the satisfaction of the board here, as far as, you know, lunch breaks that the location of the Germantown campus creates, that we can solve through, that seems to be the way we can solve it. You know, I'm certainly amenable to that. I really, quite frankly, personally, would prefer to solve the lunch break issue in a different way. I'd like to think that the distance between Montgomery College's Rockville campus and Montgomery College's Germantown campus would not be, you know, the deciding factor here. And that we could maintain it, because it has taken a lot of staff time and a lot of staff work. Plus, you know, the state board and everybody else wants to know what our campus location is and would like to nail this down as soon as possible. But I mean, I certainly can and will. We are continuing these conversations. We've maintained our reservation at Watkins Mill High School. There is a longer term conversation to be had too about where we are going to go in future elections and in future years. And the board certainly does need to know that we will be able to canvass in a predictable space in the future, I would say. So this is a conversation that doesn't end here. We used to be able to rely on being able to do this in-house. And then when we pivoted our operations so that our prior training rooms became no longer suitable for use for the canvas because we have sorting equipment in them now, things have changed. And so we do need to know moving forward whether we are going to reliably be able to count on MCPS to be able to provide us space, or whether we will be needing to go outside. This time works for Montgomery College in terms of their semester timing right now, but it wouldn't necessarily for another primary election. So this is, whatever we do right now is consequential, I think, in terms of our conversation over time about whether MCPS will reliably be able to provide space for us or whether we need to go elsewhere. Quite frankly, it was a learning experience for me to realize that a reservation with MCPS was not as firm as I thought it was, and that the standard terms of MCPS's reservations are effectively that their programming takes priority. So I do think that this is something we need to figure out that we have not in the past had to. This is a new problem. And so we're going to need to solve it both in the short term and in the long term.
A question for Kevin. If MCPS's standard term conflicts with the state law, does the state law take priority over their contract term?
The state law takes priority over their contract terms. I mean, I agree with you, David. I've been reading it. I mean, it's pretty broad. I mean, arguably, you could say that Montgomery, the Board of Education needs to make space available for early voting.
Yep.
That may be a metaphysical impossibility, but I agree with you in interpretation.
Alex, go ahead.
Question about the overall schedule. I noticed that Sunday, August 7th is offered as an option. And I was wondering, was there a reason why the earlier Sundays were not offered as an option? Just curious.
Boris or Lisa or Kevin on that?
Boris, why don't you address it? I know Boris was trying to figure in days where the staff would have time to go ahead and sort things to be able to have them in the proper order for canvassing.
Okay, we looked at the schedule initially when the canvass was planned for Watkins Mill. Location that we have now in Germantown, the cutoff date would be August 8th. Kevin is right. We looked at putting a schedule together that will give us a chance to do prep in the office between multiple canvas days that are lined up one after another. When we discussed the canvas plan, it was always mentioned that additional days might be added or the currently proposed dates might be canceled depending on the volume that we receive and the availability both of the board and canvassers.
So I think coming from that, this was our best effort at trying to map that out, subject to change. If there are reasons, including and especially board member availability, that ought to cause us to swap dates, then we can do that.
Alex, were you suggesting swapping dates or adding dates?
Well, I was just, for me, given my current leave balance and everything, the weekdays are going to be more difficult, but and I do worship on Sunday morning, but I would be willing to come in on Sunday, to make up time, even if other board members can't. So that was just my only point.
Well, I agree with Alex from the point of view that we ought to have every Sunday on the list and know what our board availability is for those time periods. Even if we want to cancel them later for other reasons.
You might adjust the hours somewhat to account for people who, normally worship on Sunday, and
sure,
something I would do, but after 11:30, I could do it probably for most of the day. So,
well, we could, we could do an afternoon session at the same time schedule as we do all the other afternoon sessions.
So rather than building in the off days, I think what I'm hearing is a suggestion that we amend our poll of you about your times to simply ask about your availability every day.
Yeah, I think that might. Well,
go ahead.
That's certainly another option as a way to do it.
Because I think I'm hearing that weekends might be easier for some board members than weekdays.
Well, and if you were doing it Sunday, you might say pick like a 1 to 5. You might end a little bit earlier given that it's Sunday, but I'm open to suggestion.
Yeah. Okay. First, let's find the place. Montgomery College is now the only option we have. Right, Kevin?
Well, I think that staff's going to look at other options and then get back to the board, but.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take this conversation and the lunch conversation into account and come back at you all with some sort of communication about scheduling.
Okay.
David, yes, your hand is up.
Alan's hand was up first, if he wants to.
Okay, Alan, go ahead.
Yes, make sure you all saw the email David sent last night showing how we three Democrats have signed up in person for every day. And if you incorporate that into Lisa's chart, then the Republicans can fill in so that we have one of each at all times.
And we're working on that. We're working on that right now.
Has a schedule, and I'm going to work all day, every day until August 6th, and then I do Zoom for a few days. So I'm available.
And I would just, along those lines, I would just, and this is what I was raising my hand for, I would just suggest that if we don't have to do it in the 4-hour shifts that were sent to us thus far, and we are just kind of going to figure out when everyone is available with a lunch break. I know that there are days that I would be able to stay the whole day, or longer at least, if not the whole day. I mean, basically, I have some specific day job meetings that I'm trying to attend that don't take up the whole time slot. So if the choice is be there from 2 to 6 or don't be there between 2 and 6, that's different than if you say, I can be there from 4 to 6 and still help out in some fashion and someone else can leave early. So it may be that if we had some more flexibility on our scheduling, we might be able to make all of this work.
Yes, we can work together to solve that problem. Any other comment? Okay, where's Allison?
Okay.
Okay, Allison, go ahead.
The next item on the list was vote by mail. And there was a request for us to provide information on the vote by mail ballot requests by political party. That was something that we had begun providing in the director's report each month, and it is now something that the State Board of Elections is providing on its website. And so you can get that information now more frequently and in more context that way. But the data that was pulled here as of June 22nd, our staff had processed 71,675 applications for a vote by mail ballot from Democrats, 9,552 from registered Republicans, and 4,544 from voters who are either unaffiliated or registered with another political party. You can find the daily information on the state's website under election data and reports, and then there's a section for the 2020 gubernatorial primary election. I also would like to report that we did have a successful first run of using the sorting equipment in order to not only sort the ballots, but also upload data to the state voter registration database, which is where this is all where these reports are generated. So that is a milestone. We were able to do that. We still, of course, have a lot of work on the back end, and I want to credit Boris and his team, and Michelle in particular, for their work on sort of making this work, working out the kinks, making sure that all of the data on the back end is accurate, and we have to have the reports that we use that correspond to the batches that we're going to canvass. And so there's a lot of staff work going on in order to shift the way that we do business from a manual one to one that is using this technology. And I just really want to credit the staff for that extra lift that they are doing in order to really modernize our business operations. The next item that I have is the drop boxes. The request had been for the installation schedule for the drop boxes, which was provided on June 8th. The drop boxes were installed and daily pickup began on Monday, June 6th is the day that I gave, but was that the correct date? I think I actually was off by a week in what I provided in writing. I believe it was Monday, June 13th that we began the daily pickup. Is that correct, Chris? I think I have a typo in the director's report.
So we started the morning of June 13th, Monday, June 13th.
There were some concerns about the placement of the drop box at the activity center at Borough Park. And the way that that was resolved is that the drop box is placed near the front entrance to the building. And we do have the video surveillance up and running at each site, and we have daily pickup going on at each site. I know that the board has some questions as far as our security protocols, and so we will discuss those in executive session, but all is going well on that front. We have had no incidents, no security violations, no vandalism, nothing of that sort. The sample ballot was mailed to all registered voters over the weekend of June 18th.
Finally, yes.
Yes, there were two follow-up items, one of which has to do with the sample ballot, which is that we did include language that some board members had suggested as far as pointing out which days we will be in which rooms at the Silver Spring Civic Building. There is certainly additional information, additional work that we're going to need to do in order to manage voter expectations at that site, which is going to be, it's just not as much space since we are not in the Great Hall for the first couple of days of early voting at Silver Spring. And that is something that is going to require some significant staff attention. I'm sure that you all as board members will get questions and inquiries. Why are we upstairs about Silver Spring? So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that issue. In our last monthly board meeting, I had noted to you all that I had just received a message about some concerns about the Germantown Community Recreation Center. Those concerns ultimately had to do with roof work being done at Kingsview Middle School, which is physically attached to the Germantown Community Recreation Center. And so there's roof work to be done this summer at the Germantown Community Recreation Center as well. However, we were able to work with MCPS in order to ensure that that work is not going to conflict with early voting. So that that concern was averted. Okay. I thought I saw a hand up.
Did you? Yes, Alex.
Allison, I will double check, but I don't think I've received a sample ballot yet. Is that, would you think that's unusual, or is it taking a while?
She said.
It can take a while because we, what we do in order to receive the lowest postage rate is that the newsprint it's bundled in carrier walk route order. And then that is provided to the carriers. And so your whole neighborhood, by party, there would be a batch of the unaffiliated and a batch of the Democratic and a batch of the Republican that would come through your neighborhood all at once. So I can check on the timing of your ballot style specifically and just use that as an example of a situation where I just sort of follow up and check on status. But I know I got mine. I know that the members of my family and staff that I know of, no one has raised an issue to me yet. So I'll take this as my first, hey, I haven't gotten it yet. Where is it? We'll check.
Yeah, I will double check. It's possible, but I went through the mail pretty carefully this weekend and we've been away, but I haven't seen it yet. So I just thought.
Yeah, I mean, our vendor always does try to caution that it can take 10 days, 2 weeks. I normally don't see it actually take that long, but that it can because they are, you know, they're bundling it for the carriers to get out.
David, your hand is up.
Yes. Allison, when you said that it was mailed, I believe you said the weekend of June 18th, was that the scheduled time for it to be mailed, or was it going to have gone out earlier because of the uncertainty about how long it takes to get to people, like you just said?
I think that was our original schedule. I could go back and see if there was another date that we had ever discussed. I think that was about the timetable that we had planned.
Isn't usually we are earlier than June 6th? Early election is next week. Usually, I
mean, June 18th would have been a month before election day. I don't know if that seemed a little tight, but
right. So,
Yeah, I can check. I mean, quite honestly, our schedules have been so compressed for this election.
Sure.
You know, it would have been a different date when we were talking about a June election. And once we had the election rescheduled, you know, we locked in what we could lock in. You know, as you're talking about it and I'm looking at the calendar, you know, yes, I do try to get printer time as early as possible because I like to have the sample ballots get out there as early as possible to maximize voters' opportunity to change their political party if they want, you know, follow up on their voter registration, as well as just get the notice of the election in advance of the election itself. I don't think I had printer time available to me before then for a July election, but.
Okay. The only other thing I was going to mention, and I'm glad you mentioned the Silver Spring Civic Building in the sample ballot. When we submitted our edits to the draft sample ballot, we had suggested the language about the dates, but we had suggested that the dates be separated by a dash and not a comma. And in the printed version, it is separated by commas, which would imply that we're not talking about the days in between the 7th and the 10th and the 11th and the 14th. And of course, what we were trying to say was, I mean, if we were not going to use that dash, I would have said first 4 days, last 4 days, or something like that. But the way that it's in the ballot now, it basically tells you what's happening on 4 specific days, but doesn't tell you what's happening on the other 4 days. And so
when I went back to confirm that change had been made, I noticed that there was a comma there instead of a dash too. And yeah, I wish we had gotten a dash in there. I mean, if you think that is enough of a problem that we need to do something in order to.
I think we should do anything we can to get the word out about that polling place. I think it should be in bright lights on our website. I think we should be telling anyone who, you know, any elected official who lives within a 5-mile radius of that site. It is the most popular site, maybe in the state, certainly in the county. And to the extent that we can get the word out about, you know, and I think, as I've told you, Allison, but the others I don't think have heard, I think it's a success story for our board that we figured out a way to do it there. Even though it's not going to be as ideal as it has been in the past, you know, we could have gone in and evicted the private wedding that was already scheduled to be there. That would not have been morally correct, but it, you know, would have been possible. We didn't do that. We found a solution, and it's not perfect, but it is, you know, it is our solution. But I think part of making our solution works is informing people so that if they can adjust their behavior between the first 4 days and the last 4 days, that they do so, and that will minimize the lines on the first 4 days. So, anything that we can do, I think we should. And if it, you know, it was just a missed opportunity. It's good that we said something in the sample ballot, but it was a missed opportunity to not have those dashes there.
Right.
Okay, Alison, did you cover budget and all of those?
So as of June 23rd, the year-to-date expenditures were $6,605,786.83. Effectively, that left us with a little less than 1.7 million in remaining funds for the fiscal year. We just received the fourth quarter invoice this morning, or the estimated fourth quarter invoice from this morning for the State Board of Elections. I had a conversation with OMB this morning about where we stand for fiscal 22 and where we stand for fiscal 23. You know, clearly we did not end up needing a supplemental appropriation for fiscal 22 because the election is now being held in July and a lot of our expenditures will be in fiscal 23. And we ultimately end up probably very close to on budget for the year. For fiscal 23, however, we have, even though we got some additional funds into the budget to help address what the board had identified in the past as kind of a structural deficit in our budget, now we have 2 elections in the same fiscal year. And so we do anticipate that there will be a need for a supplemental appropriation in fiscal 23. We have a commitment from the Office of Management and Budget to work with us, very positive communications about our sort of cash flow on how we're going to handle fiscal 23. You know, certainly there will be, I'm confident that there will not be any hurdles created in that. It's just not going to be feasible for us to get a supplemental appropriation prior to the November election. We'll do a supplemental appropriation after the November election, and we certainly will have a significant amount of unexpended funds at that point anyway, because we still do have the rest of a fiscal year to get through as far as both our personnel costs and our operating costs, things that we don't get billed from the state until the 3rd or the 4th quarter bills. And so we've worked out a timetable where after the November election, we'll be able to really solidify the numbers of what we're going to need for a fiscal 23 supplemental to cover those additional expenditures.
Alan, you have a question?
Yeah, Kira explained to us that we can't carry over any surpluses to the next fiscal year, but can we buy equipment in this fiscal year that we would otherwise buy in the next fiscal year?
That's certainly always yeah, anything that we purchase, of course, you know, whenever we purchase it, is the fiscal year that it gets billed to. For this year, because we were expecting such a significant deficit, we're not really going to end the fiscal year with, you know, some large surplus. That's not going to be our financial situation. For fiscal 23, the other thing, and I did note this before, but I do want to restate it, is that we are going to be adding 3 positions to our IT complement, which I'm very excited about. We have had some long-term temporary positions really since 2014. We've had temporary employees serving on a full-time year-round basis here. And so I'm excited that we are going to be structurally fixing that and adding staff to our merit positions for the office. Personnel I've got further down, I'll go ahead and follow the order that we have here though. Voter registration, the monthly statistical report was distributed to the board on June 1st. We had 674,603 active registered voters at that time and 73,855 inactive voters for a total voter count of 748,458. As you know, ballots began to be mailed to registered voters on, applications, not ballots, began to be mailed to registered voters on February 1st. But because there are unaffiliated voters elsewhere in the state who do not necessarily receive a ballot unless there are filed candidates, and because the state was doing this mailing statewide, the applications to unaffiliated voters were held. And so unaffiliated voters in Montgomery County did not receive an application for a vote by mail ballot in February. They have instead received them this month. I also have charts that are on the last page of the last few pages of the director's report that break down the vote by mail applications and types of ballots that we have received. Ultimately, of the 85,771 applications that we had processed as of June 22nd, our percentages have held true. About 2/3 are for permanent vote by mail, 1/3 just for one time, and 13% are for web delivery ballots, which is just a slight uptick from where we were last time, but is a significant reduction in terms of the percentage of our ballots that are vote by mail from what we had seen prior to 2020. I did speak to the ballot sorting equipment. The permanent positions Obviously, the positions of election director and election operations manager have been advertised or made open until filled. We are currently conducting interviews for an office services coordinator position. And we have 2 positions that remain vacant for a management and budget specialist and an additional office services coordinator, which we'll get them filled as well, but kind of one position at a time. It certainly has been the labor shortage situation being what it is, that has impeded our ability to get applicants for these positions and get them filled. Right now, our emphasis is on the temporary positions, particularly our on-site call center to address peak customer service demand. Right now, we have 69 temporary employees on the payroll. Election judge recruitment and training. I will, Janet was trying to pull a report for me to be able to send around to all of you so that you can formally appoint election directors for the election. The current numbers that I have, we have 2,069 individuals trained for their positions. 1,459 of them are Democrats, 210 of them are Republicans, and 400 of them are unaffiliated or are affiliated with another political party. I am going to want to ask for a motion for you to go ahead and formally appoint the election judges, recognizing that we still have a significant amount of training to do, so you can't appoint everybody. But we do at some point need you to do the formal motion to appoint election judges prior to the election. I will say that generally speaking, our numbers are not where we would like them to be. They are, you know, I think all of you in some way, shape, or form have been involved with Montgomery County elections in the past and have seen the difference at the polls between an election where we have a lot of election judges out there and an election where we're more light-handed.
Are we accepting more application after we approve these judges?
We are absolutely accepting more applications. We need more election judges. We will be increasing the class sizes in order to accommodate our, you know, unfortunately, we're always in this situation where it's really sort of challenging to get people to sign up. We've had, I forget the number, but we've had, I think, well over 4,000 people fill out an application to serve as an election judge for this cycle. But getting from the point of actually filling out an application to say, yes, I would like to do that in concept, to actually getting into a training class and into a seat and sort of following through on that. Before the last weeks before an election, the last few weeks before an election, suddenly, you know, you have a surge in people who want to serve, and our challenge is getting them trained so that they can, especially when early voting is already going on and our trainers are our best center managers. So we're still trying to get as many election judges trained before early voting begins as we possibly can. We will be continuing training during early voting, although of course that divides our forces. So please do keep sending election judges our way, but the appointment that I'm going to ask you to make is going to be for lighter hands, and it's going to be, as we have seen in the past for gubernatorial primary elections. I was looking back, and the lowest we had was fiscal 14. We had 2,253 election judges out there. So I definitely want to get, I don't want to be that low. So
David, your hand is up.
Alan was first.
Yeah, you're mentioning judges. Some time ago, I made a request for that all of us board members get copies of the Chief Judge's Manual. We get inquiries all the time about little details that those manuals cover. Can you arrange for all of us on the board to get Chief Judge's manuals?
Yes. Janet, do we have the printed bound copies here that we can just mail to each board member? I know for the election judges generally we have a link, but you have to actually be logged into our system.
Allison, this is Chris. I spoke to Ryan just the other day about that. We have printed coil bound election judge manuals downstairs that we could provide.
Great, thank you.
Okay, yes, let's just mail one out to every one of the board members.
Okay.
Thank you. David.
Thank you.
Allison, if we know of people who want, who are interested in being judges, to whom should we send them?
To 777vote.org, and then click on election workers, and then click on, I think the phrasing of it is submit an application or apply here or something like that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Aisha Mills Farigo is the election judge recruitment and training coordinator. And she is in the position that, you know, many of you know, that Leslie Woods had been in for many years. Aisha had served with us as a recruiter prior as well. And she's fabulous. So Aisha is the manager of that team, but I would send people to the website, because what Aisha will do if she gets on the phone with them is she will walk them through the process of going to the website to sign up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else before I turn to Kevin? Allison, you have more things to say?
No, unless board members have questions about the charts of vote by mail ballots or any of that information. I'm done.
I just say that I looked on the state website today and we're up to 90,000 mail-in ballot requests as of yesterday from Montgomery County. So
90,000?
90,000 with about 3 weeks left to go.
Yeah.
More than any election before 2020.
I'm sure we will have more.
Yes, agreed.
So before we go turn to Kevin, I'd like to get the votes for election judges.
I move that we accept the election judges who've been approved.
Second?
Second, I second it.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Alice, you say something? Those in favor, raise your hand. I know Alan said opposed. It passed. Thank you very much. Now, Kevin.
Okay, thank you, Nahid. So we have finalized and we have executed MOUs for Rockville and I believe Bora Park. Allison, do we have Bora Park's early voting MOU?
Yes, the deputy city attorney picked that up and was having both copies executed and returned back to me today. So I don't have that in hand, but it may very well be back here at the front counter at this point.
And Montgomery County, the MOU with Montgomery County is being circulated for signatures. And Allison, you should get that in the next day or so.
Right.
And Sandy Springs, they have tentatively approved it. It needs to be approved by their board, and their board's going to take a poll vote, hopefully this week. But our contact person is, I think, fine with the agreement. Sandy Spring has raised an issue in terms of parking, and that people parked in places that impeded the ability for emergency equipment to leave the department. So we're gonna have to work on that issue and maybe perhaps have police or someone out there doing traffic control at Sandy Spring. But I told them that we will address it and make sure that their concerns are addressed, because they said during 2020, they were the traffic police and they're not interested in being traffic police for this election cycle. So Allison, you and I need to sit down and figure out what we're going to do about that.
Yep. And we're meeting with the police tomorrow, so I've added that to our agenda.
Okay. I mean, I know we have, we always have the police at like Potomac and a couple other places where it's just the parking's not ideal and, for safety reasons. And obviously we're going to need Sandy Spring to be added to that list.
And also we need a street sign. It said vote here and then arrow for that building. That was a problem before.
Yeah, you're right. Allison, have we reached out to, what department within Montgomery County that puts up those signs on in Olney that says vote here or turn here or early voting here or whatever. We had a couple.
Signs?
Yeah,
We have.
Okay, and we've had a sign, certainly, I think at Potomac, we put a sign that said like, slow down, because it's dangerous as you make the turn on Falls Road. Like you're gonna, you easily, if people are going too fast, you could go ahead and have a pedestrian hit. And I assume, are we getting that lined up for other locations, for White Oak and for other early voting sites?
But since this building is behind, very far away from Main Street, so we do need the sign said vote here, something like that. I
have raised that. I'll follow up. Chris, if you want to speak up on that, feel free. But otherwise, we'll just follow up and make sure that we either have those or communicate out to the board if any of them are problematic.
Boris, is your hand up? Do you want to talk? Boris? No?
No, that's not mine. Sorry.
All right. Go ahead, Kevin.
Other than that, that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Old business.
We actually handled all of the new business items in the course of the director's report.
I know that. Yes. So, old business. Any old business? No.
I thought David had raised a couple of issues.
I did indeed, and we added a few things to the agenda for new business. Is this the time, Madam President?
Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So as far as early voting goes, in past elections, board members have been assigned to early voting locations. It's my understanding that is not the case for this election, but Allison, I was hoping that you might clarify that.
We are required by regulation to have someone at each one of the early voting sites when they open and when they close. It does not have to be a board member. It can be a staff member. And by practice, we do have a staff member at every one of our early voting sites when it opens and when it closes. So of all of the things that we are asking you as board members to do, that is one that I do not need to require you to do at a specific day or time. It is fine by me if you circulate among the early voting sites at your own schedule. I will need to have, I have your contact information, but I'd like to make sure that I have the best cell for you. During the early voting period, there are frequently occasions when I need to, when I want to ask for board members' assistance in either going out and addressing some sort of an electioneering issue, or, God forbid, in the event that we have some sort of an incident where we actually need to trigger an emergency relocation or something like that. We'll need board members to be on call, and we value your eyes and ears out there, but I don't need you to divvy up and make sure each one of you is at a site first thing that morning. Now, if you want to be, you're welcome to be. I certainly would appreciate any, knowing where your eyes and ears are is helpful to me in the event that I have a report of an incident, then I can say, oh, we have a board member that I know is out there, let me call them. But you're really at your own discretion in terms of where you want to go and when.
Alison, as far as I remember, I'm sure David remember, Kevin, our counselor, is the one on call and tell us what's going on. Wasn't that like that, Kevin?
I will certainly call Kevin first.
Both. I've gotten calls from the elections director and or our council or colleagues or whatever. I mean, on election day, I've gotten, or in early vote, I've gotten all the above, I think.
Kevin.
So, I mean, everyone's encouraged to go out and visit the early voting sites. It's just not a need to assign anyone to any specific site.
My only concern with that is that I thought that there was some benefit to us to not all being in the same place, in terms of if you do need somebody. But I understand what you're saying, that and we all have different times when we may be available. Obviously, there are very few who are going to be available during all of early voting. I know I won't be. So, so if I understand correctly, unlike in past years, I'm talking pre-2020, We do not need to be assigned to particular early voting sites. We do not need to be there to open and close like we have in the past. And we're free to go wherever we think it would be useful for us to see what's going on there and to let you know what we see.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would rather you conserve any limited leave time for the days when I really need you for a quorum during the canvass.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you've got the ability to be out there, great.
Right. Now, we also had a conversation about where the media day is going to be on the first day. Has there been a decision made as to which early voting site the board president is going to be at?
Bower Park.
Let's say
Okay.
Bower Park. And, you know, if there's any reason for that to change, then we can certainly change that.
Deliver the things that Bower Park, one of the largest place for vote, and also we have never done that place, so we should go there.
Okay. That being the case, I'll just say that I would probably end up on the first day at Silver Spring, because that is our largest early voting site, the greatest number of people, and I do think we have a message we have to send out there. And I'll be happy to work, Allison, with you and the staff on how to do that. But I do think that we need to do that.
Yes, Amy.
Oh,
I
Yes,
usually go to Potomac Rec Center first. I'll be there for a while. They're the same personnel. They know me. I know them. So I won't be there at 7 in the morning, but I'll be there in the morning.
Okay.
Alan, will you be bringing some of that French wine with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Diane.
yeah, I just wanted to add back to David's earlier comment about not being assigned to these locations. I have really enjoyed over the many, many years working in Montgomery County during elections, the ability, and now being on the board, I like the ability to be able to just travel around all of the different voting locations, early voting. So I really appreciate the fact that we don't have to commit to one location. I find it really instructive. And I know I've run into Allison at some of these locations, and it's really helpful to just get an overview of the operation.
Yes, thank you. Yes, David, you want to talk?
Oh yeah. Just to make it clear, Diane, we were always going. I mean, I've always gone to every early voting site. It's just a question of whether you had to start and end somewhere in particular. And it sounds like they're not asking us to do that, but obviously we go to all of them. I do have another category of new business items if we're done with early voting.
You have other business under?
Yes, remember I said I wanted to talk about board correspondence.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so there was a few pieces of correspondence that we've received that I wanted to follow up on and get a sense as to whether they've been responded to and how. The first one I want to mention, there was a gentleman who sent us suggestions about the Potomac Community Center. His name is George Fenster. And he sent an email to the main elections at Montgomery County MD.gov email box on May the 1st. When he did not get a response, he sent a copy of his letter to Delegate Linda Foley, who then sent it to me. And I sent it to Allison, Janet, Nahid, and Kevin on June the 8th, asking a couple of things. Number one was, are we taking any of his suggestions in terms of trying to improve in particular, the parking situation at Potomac Community Center? And my other question was whether there are other letters with other suggestions that we've gotten at elections at Montgomery County MD.gov, and if so, could they be shared with the board? So I have not gotten a response to that since June 8th. So I wanted to ask now.
I don't remember seeing your email, David.
I'll be happy to forward it to you, Nahid, so you can see that I sent it to you on June the 8th. I don't know whether Allison and Janet and Kevin remember the email I sent. And then, of course, Mr. Fenster sent his original email on May the 1st, which apparently he never got a response to. So, again, my question is in part, what are we doing with his concerns and his suggestions? And the second question is, what are we doing with any kind of correspondence we get to the main mailbox where they're making suggestions about our early voting sites?
I do remember that. I do remember sort of in context the concerns about the Potomac early voting site. Quite frankly, I do not remember if he was replied to, when he was replied to. I will go back and check on that. I'll make that an action item for this board meeting to check the status on that. Lisa, do you want to speak in terms of the correspondence, or I know you forwarded some things to the board, and
yeah, I'm going to be getting to some of those, but what I don't know is what I don't know. I don't know what the board staff receives at that email address that we don't, if there is anything in that category. I know that Mr. Fenster's May 1st email never came to me until Delegate Foley sent it to me.
And I don't remember the response, but I will check on it.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had a couple of different staff that we're at the point now where the volume of correspondence to that email box has increased. And so we've got a couple of people's eyes and ears on that box. But
is there someone with primary responsibility for making sure that those emails are directed to the right places?
Well, ultimately it's me, but Lisa has been more directly hands-on with that than I've been able to, which is why I'm deferring to Lisa on the sort of process.
Okay, well, I'm happy to hear what Lisa has to say.
Are you available? Lisa?
Okay.
She's been pulled away.
Yeah, I actually, David, I did get your email, and I thought I did check with Lisa. I don't think Lisa was able to find the original email, but we will make sure that a response is sent to Mr. Fenster.
Well, my real question is not just that he get a response; it's that he get consideration of his thoughts. We have a big parking problem at Potomac that we all know. Yeah. I mean, anyone who's been there has seen it. And obviously we're not just trying to deal with Potomac, we try to deal with issues at all of our early voting centers. Right. But if a citizen, I don't know that he has a reason to pretend to have sent it to us on May the 1st, but you definitely have had it since June the 8th when I forwarded it.
Potomac that's front and center on our list of sites with the police as well, to make sure that we have crossing guards and support. I've been out there helping with that. It's a challenging situation.
I made a number of suggestions in my email to you that perhaps I should just mention right now. One of them it's too late for. I don't know if it was too late on June the 8th. One of them was to say something in the sample ballot about the fact that parking is challenging at Potomac, which might encourage people, if they have a choice, like Potomac or place B, to go to place B and then relieve some of the parking at Potomac. Another suggestion was to ask the rec center if there are activities that don't have to be scheduled during our early voting period, because they're driving traffic there as well. Another suggestion is to have, I don't know whether we have future vote students who could help us with directing people to parking spaces, because there's a fair amount of parking at that facility, but it's not always easy for people to find them. But my hope would be that if somebody sends us suggestions that we take them seriously, and that, of course, that we respond. But I appreciate your checking into that.
Would you like to speak to the parking arrangements and the traffic at Potomac and other use of the site?
Did you direct that to me, Allison?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have tried different issues. Allison, one year we tried with one of the synagogues, which is a little bit east up Falls Road, where we were allowing election judges to park up there, and we were trying to bring them in, and that didn't seem convenient. That we were hoping by not having the judges park on site that would alleviate some of the parking, but that became a very cumbersome project, with judges arriving at different times and then being able to get them down Falls Road. It's not walkable, so it wasn't something that we could ask any individual to go out and walk along Falls Road. We probably have to be more aggressive about the gravel parking lot that's off to the side. Plus, there maybe we could do something. There's a small park somewhat around the corner, sort of behind Potomac Community Center, but then that would also mean people walking into the center. And so don't know if we could have some judges possibly park back there, but they're leaving late at night. There's a lot of considerations on asking people to park too far away from the building.
Well, I will say that if the issue is trying to make sure that the judges can get to their cars at the end of the evening, that seems to me that it could be addressed. I mean, we can send people there at that time, including board members for that matter, to assist with that. But I don't know how many judges we have parking at Potomac, but we seem to always have parking issues there. And if there is some way to get them, to help with this parking situation, I realize we don't want to lose them either. But if there's a way to balance those things, I think it would be worth considering.
Let's Alan talk because he covered that. Yes, Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, you probably already talked about having judges park in the neighborhood, right across the street. Perpendicular to Falls Road, there's a neighborhood. I've parked there. If they could park there, and to direct people to the gravel traffic, to the gravel parking lot first, push them to the far ends, and they'll fill up as they get closer.
And that's what we worked with the police to do, that I think worked very well.
Can we get the police's assistance in making sure that our election judges can get to their cars if they're not parked in the parking lot? Because that would be about as good a security as we can provide them.
And that's, Chris, do you want to speak to that? That is my recollection of what we did, is that we had the judges park in the gravel lot, and that worked well. And
that's what we've done most recently, is to ask them to park away from the building, allowing the voters to have the slots or the spaces that are closer in on the pavement. And that has worked. The judges have been active in trying to park down that way rather than parking up close to the building.
Well,
thank you.
The police department thought that worked well too.
If you're going to get police to go ahead and walk them back and forth, they can actually park right on Marseille Drive and take the path right up to the community center.
Well, they don't all leave at the same time or arrive at the same time, and that's the challenge behind having the election judges park in a space that has a required escort. I'd rather have them use the gravel lot.
I guess it also depends on when your police assistance is available, because if the police is there at the end of the day, then perhaps they can assist with that. But anyway, I appreciate that you're making those efforts to try and address the parking situation, and I urge you to take a look at Mr. Fenster's letter.
I'm going to send it to me. All right, thank you.
Is that the correspondence?
I will forward it to you again, Madam President, but I definitely copied you when I sent it.
I just Googled it. I didn't see anything from you.
Have all board members seen Mr. Fenster's letter?
No. But I would be happy to forward it to all of you.
Yeah.
And my thought was that I was sending it to the board president and that she would decide whether it was worthy of sending to everyone. But I would be happy to send it to everyone after our meeting. Second question, we got a letter. It was dated June 11th. It was sent to us on June 16th from the Republican Women of Charles County, claiming widespread fraud in Maryland elections and supporting the Maryland Voter Integrity Group. I did not see a response. And I guess my question is, did they get one?
That letter was sent to all of the counties. And my recollection is that there's a coordinated response from the state, but I'll follow up on that one as well.
I'd be very interested in seeing that.
Yeah.
So yes, so Allison, does that mean that there was not a response from Montgomery County?
I have not responded, no.
Naheed, was there a response from the board president?
No, I just talked to Kevin. I said, what are you going to do about that? Because it was sent to the Board of Election. That means everybody got it.
Okay, so there was no response to that one. Okay, then the third piece of correspondence. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Dave, does the board wish a specific response from Montgomery County when it was sent to every jurisdiction in the state?
Right.
Not if the state's going to do a coordinated response.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying I would just be interested in seeing what the state response was.
Right.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that. Okay, so the third one.
Will somebody send us a copy of their response when it happens? Do they send that to us?
I will make that a follow-up item and make sure that the response gets forwarded to all the board members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the third one I wanted to ask about was a letter that actually we received a couple of different letters from a Michael Fletcher of Durwood, Maryland. There was a letter dated June 7th that alleged problems relating to Dominion voting machines. It was sent to the board on June the 10th. Naheed responded on June the 23rd, and we were all copied on that, and thank you for that. And then he sent more information on June 24th. So my question is there anything being done about that? And do we use Dominion voting machines? Because I thought that we did not.
We do not use Dominion voting machines. And I'll check on that one as well. I haven't penned any sort of a response, but I'll check.
Well, David, I was planning on drafting a response for the board's review, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay, so the letter that he got so far is just an interim response that basically said, send this to us, because he said that he sent us each something in March. I couldn't find it. Naheed's letter says she couldn't find it. I don't know whether anyone else, had anything from him in March. It also says that he sent something to elections@montgomerycountymd.gov the prior September. We don't have record of that either.
I don't know. Lisa, do you know?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So I have some information on Mr. Fletcher. So an email was received from Mr. Fletcher on September 13th, 2021 to the elections mailbox addressed specifically to Margaret and Elasoon. The email was forwarded to them. I don't know for sure if Margaret has responded since we can't track her email at this point. Letters, hard copy letters, were dated March 1st from Mr. Fletcher were received at BOE. Those letters and a copy of the email were sent to the board members on March 7th. The caveat here is that they were all jumbled in before the special board meeting on redistricting. So it came in as part of the comments to the board members on March 7th. And because we had a redistricting, I'm sure it was probably overlooked because it came compiled with all those documents, additional comments received.
And so now, Kevin, you're going to draft a response.
Correct.
Yeah.
Presumably telling him that we don't use Dominion voting machines,
right,
among other things.
Correct.
Yes.
And we'll have an opportunity to see the response.
Well, I'm going to send you a
Before it
draft
goes.
as soon as it's approved
Yes.
by the board. Then I'll send it out.
Alan.
Perfect.
Yes. Alan.
Thank you.
Kevin, am I correct that ES&S is an independent company and has no relationship with Dominion?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
That was the issue I was going to raise. Going off memory, I thought he indicated that there was a nexus between the two and that they were linked. Any way to get clarification on that?
Sure. I'll reach out. I'll reach out to Nikki.
Thank you. Just to put that to rest.
Okay.
Thanks, Kevin.
No problem.
Okay. Any other subject under old business?
I just want to express concern that it seems like it may be helpful for us to have a standard protocol for how we deal with letters that are addressed to the general mailbox. Because it sounds like they've been handled in a number of different ways at different times, and sometimes not clear that it was received or not clear what was done with it, or there's a lot of work to be done. I think it's an important part of our job, both for members and staff, to respond to what the public sends us, and that's one of the main ways that they send stuff to us.
Well, if I could suggest, why doesn't this, when correspondence comes in, it'd be sent to all the board members, and if the board members feel that a particular response is warranted, then they can direct staff to do so. This issue with Charles County, because it went to every jurisdiction, not just Montgomery County, I didn't feel there was a need for Montgomery County to do anything in particular.
It would have been good to have a chance to have you say that at the time, because I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Lisa, how many messages are you receiving in that email box a day, would you say?
So it varies. Before I was getting about maybe 12 to 15. And after being here this weekend and checking emails, today there was 121.
So I don't know what the volume of request, I mean, what happens, and I should probably just let Lisa speak to this. Lisa, how do you, when you're the one doing it, and I know now you've delegated that and there's some other staff who are on it, but what would you say is the general sort of approach to how we handle those email messages to the elections mailbox?
The overwhelming amount of emails now are more directed to individuals requesting absentee ballots, and or that they're making mistakes on their ballot and would like a duplicate or a resend of their ballot. So those are all forwarded on to absentee. There's individuals who are inquiring about the changing their party affiliation or registering to vote. Those are forwarded to voter services. And there are emails coming in for individuals inquiring to be an election judge, future vote. And so those are forwarded on to election judge and recruitment. I don't respond to them. I just forward them on. Then there's individuals that are sending emails asking about board meetings, and those are ones that I respond to. Making regular statements either to the director or the deputy director, and then others who are directly requesting that the information be shared with board members. And so I forward those on and at least give an opportunity for Alisoon or Margaret at the time to review the correspondence and see how they want to proceed.
And just like you get, right now you're getting a high volume of people contacting the elections mailbox with absentee ballot requests. People who send things to the absentee email line sometimes will, while they feel like they have the eyes and ears of the Board of Elections, they'll raise other issues, or The same thing is true, of course, with election judges who have advice on how we handle things. And so, we forward things around, received in different places. But then rather than kind of putting Lisa on the spot on that, I guess I'm illustrating that to say that there is an editorial screen that is applied to every message as it comes in to see what the topic is, what's going on, who it's directed to. I think we try to do our best to make sure that we get information to the board members that is of interest to the board members. I certainly have absolutely no objection to any and all guidance as far as where you want that line to be drawn. I think we try to deal with the operational matters and send the sort of policy matters or the complaint matters that are sort of being escalated to your eyes and ears.
Tell me when you're coming back. I'm sorry.
So that's just what I wanted to say. I don't think it's realistic to imagine that we send everything to the board. We have to have some sort of a critical screen before it comes to you. Unless you want to be eyeing all of the absentee ballot requests and
we don't respond to those, right? We don't actually send ballots to people who request them via that email address, right?
We follow up on their request, and depending on what they're asking, it may be information that they're seeking. We do respond to a high volume of customer inquiries over email.
But to actually get a ballot, you have to fill out the form and sign it right and send it in. You can't just write an email, correct?
Correct.
As far as the guidance, Allison, I think you probably have heard me say, I know the board members have heard me say, we have a board policy on the books, and it says that the board should get copies, all the board members should get copies of all non-routine correspondence. And so I think that it's a question of what is routine. I would consider someone who is asking, how do I get my absentee ballot, or how do I change from web delivery to US mail delivery, or where's my polling place? I would consider that to be routine. I would not consider it to be routine if somebody is saying that our election equipment is not reliable. Here's how to fix here's the big problem at one of your early voting centers. I mean, to me, that would be something that the board would definitely want to know about. And I would say, from my perspective, when in doubt, send it to us. Because the worst case scenario is that you send us something that we don't need to do anything with, which would be welcome in many ways. So that's, but we do have, and I can send that to everyone. We do have a policy already that says non-routine correspondence should come to all of us.
Is that policy in writing?
Yes, it was in the minutes of a meeting. It was discussed at a board meeting. I'll find it for you.
And I can follow up too. I do. We'll make sure, as we are navigating, having multiple eyes and ears on incoming correspondence, that everybody has a sort of shared understanding of what needs to get forwarded to Lisa, so that we can then forward it on to you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yes. Any other old business? Thank you. Action item. Any action item? No. Approval of the minutes. We have a vote for April 25th, 2022. Do I have
I move
motion?
I move we accept April 22nd, did you say?
Yes.
Yep.
Now April 25th.
25th.
25.
I move we accept the minutes from April 25th, 2022.
As amended?
As amended.
As amended. Second?
I'll second it.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Would it be possible for us to move all 5 minutes at the same time?
I asked Kevin, and he said we have to do individually.
Oh,
Kevin?
okay.
Well, I thought it would be clearer for the record if we did it that way.
Okay.
Okay.
So therefore we do fast. April 28th, 2022.
I'm sorry. I thought it was a different date that we just said.
That was 25th. Oh, yes.
We haven't voted on it yet.
Okay, those in favor of April 25, 2022. Thank you. Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Raise the hand fast. Alan, raise your hand.
I can't vote.
Oh, you can vote? Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm raising my mechanical hand.
Okay, thank you. April 28th, 2022.
I move we accept the minutes from the April 28th, 2022 meeting as amended.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second. Discussion? No. Those in favor, say aye or raise your hand, whatever is easier. Okay, thank you. Approved. May 12, 2022.
I move we accept the May 12th, 2022 minutes as amended.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? No. Those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed. May 17, 2022.
I move we accept the minutes from the May, 22nd, 27th?
17.
17.
Oh, my apologies. May 17th, 2022 as amended.
Second.
Seconded. Those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Whatever. Thank you. Is approved. May 23rd, 2022.
Okay, I move we accept the minutes from May 23rd, 2022 as amended.
Second.
Those, any discussion? Nobody remember what was it? Those in favor raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you very much. Future meeting is going to be July 11, 2022. Right? Any other discussion? So do I have a move to adjourn the meeting?
You're going to a motion to go into executive session.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So move.
First, we have to adjourn, no? Or not?
No, we move to go to
this meeting and go to the executive session.
Okay.
But for members of the public, there will be no further public discussion after the executive session.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a technical question, Kevin. The link we got is for 5:30. Is it active now?
Well, we have two executive sessions. So we're going to start with the first one, and then I'm going to call my assistant about the second one.
There are separate links for those?
You send us a Zoom information.
Yeah. Oh, I
have links.
Well, the first one, was there another number for that, Janet or Jerry, if you're on, or are we?
No. It came from my office, Allison.
Sorry,
Right.
are you talking about the first one or the second one, Kevin?
The second one. I assumed what we would have this discussion with staff regarding Dropbox security, and then we would use the other link to have only board members discuss our personnel issue.
Right. Does anyone remember when the first link was sent to us so that I can find it?
I don't think. Janet, can't you block everyone from?
Yes, that is supposed to get out of the public and go to executive.
Oh, so in other words, we don't have a separate link. We're going to stay where we are.
Correct.
Yes, and they will block.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That explains why I don't have a link.
I didn't set the meeting up, so I need to see if I can move people. Normally we have to do it in advance, and Jerry wasn't aware there was a executive session.
Oh.
So we all just hang in there, right?
Yeah, I got to see if I can
just hold on.
Can pull anybody over to another room.
Thank you.
So we end the recording.
That out. Do we adjourn?
Kevin, we can discuss. We can have this.
We have to stop the recording for the executive session.
Yes.
But we don't go anywhere.
I can't even stop it.
Not yet. I don't think.
Kevin, I don't see Kevin.
Yes, I was just asking Brenda to go ahead and move up the time for our second meeting.
Okay, Kevin, can we discuss both a subject in that second executive committee meeting?
Can we
Oh,
discuss?
no, we can't. No, we can't. So forget it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Because I'm not the host, I can't set it up. Let me see if Jerry came back. Hold on a second.
Okay.
We could end the meeting and just send a new link around too, if that's.
And there was a phone number, but I think it's now hung up that I didn't recognize.
So we can end the recording, but I think Janet is.
I can't even end the recording. I'm trying. It won't even let me end the recording.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm not the host. I'm the co-host. Yeah, he has to give me permission. I'll keep trying to close and it says no.
You want me to just end the meeting and start a new meeting? We can do executive session. I can just send around a new Zoom link.
Yeah, because I think Jerry ended up going downstairs to help IT with something.
I'll just use my Zoom account to set up another one for the executive session then.
Okay, so we should just watch our email?
Does that work, Janet?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we all log off and then log back on with a new log.
You'll get a new link from me.
Okay.
Okay,
thank you. Thank you very much.
Have we formally adjourned this meeting?
I don't think we need to. I think we're going to executive session.
Right. You don't need to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
See you later.
I think historically we did adjourn the regular meeting and go into executive session.
Right.
Because if you don't adjourn the regular meeting, then you'll have to go back into the regular meeting after your executive session.
Right.
So what do you want to do, Madam President? Should I move to adjourn?
We can adjourn the public meeting, go to the executive session meeting. Whatever we said. We're getting out of public meeting, we're going to
I move, we adjourn the public meeting and immediately move into executive session.
Yes.
Is that good?
Second? Nobody second? Those in favor?
Aye.
I think anyone was going to agree with me.
Thank you.
Okay.
We forgot our names.
We'll look for a new link, right?
See you guys later on the new link.
Okay. Good luck.
Don't go away. We're supposed to see each other.
Oh my goodness. I never know.
I'm alone.